What would you say to someone who's listening to this right now who might be going through a similar hardship or something different, but maybe she feels kind of knocked out at this moment?
I know everybody goes through different things in different situations, but if you can embrace the I'm knocked down, but I'm not knocked out verbiage, when you're at your depths, when you're laying in your closet crying or in your car crying and you realize how crappy your situation is right now, if you can come back to the present and just realize you are just fine. You might be living a living hell, but you are going to come back. Commit to rise. Live whatever you're going through, but there is something on the other side. There is something on the other side. And just because you're taking this breath and having these thoughts, you are not knocked out.
Welcome to A Beautiful Fix. I'm Tracy Hill. Each week we'll dive into the latest thought gem, recharging and reconnecting with what lights you up and makes you feel alive. Let's discover your next beautiful fix together. Hey, real quick before we dive in, you're powerful. And sometimes you just need someone to remind you what's already in you. That's what human design does. It's the difference between guessing and knowing. So you can stop searching outside yourself and start trusting the answers within. I promise you they're there. Grab your free chart at abeautifulfix.com, and when you're ready to go deeper, book a one-to-one session with me. All right, let's get into the episode. Welcome back to A Beautiful Fix. My guest today is Pam Sandrock. Pam is a life coach, the creator of No Knockouts, and the voice behind the No Knockouts podcast, a space dedicated to resilience, transformation, and rising strong after life throws its hardest punches. She believes that while pain and hardship are inevitable, staying down is optional. Pam helps women in midlife navigate reinvention, rebuild strength, and rediscover purpose. And in human design, Pam is a 3-5 emotional projector, which means she's here to guide others by invitation and through the lessons she's learned from real life experience. And with emotional authority, she's designed to take her time when making decisions, kind of feeling things over time instead of just rushing into yeses. So Pam, I'm so glad you're here today. Let's jump on in. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thanks for having me, Tracy. This is such an honor. I'm really looking forward to this.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So Pam, let's just jump right in with the podcast. You created No Knockouts, which is a brand and podcast that helps women rise after hardship. What brought that vision to life?
It comes from hardship, honestly. I was 37 years old and I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I was really blindsided by it, and I really struggled with the word cancer. I didn't think I deserved it. I had a lot of shame around it. I struggled with it. I had hard decisions to make, but then years afterwards, I was still in emotional suffering because I couldn't accept the diagnosis. I sat in a shame and blame loop and struggled. And even though I was physically better, I was physically 100% capable, I struggled emotionally. And one day I just said to myself, you are not knocked out. You are not knocked out. Basically, I had to draw a line in the sand and say, get back in the game. You've got a life to live, and stop pitching yourself your own pity party. And back in those days, I just call it seriously sad. I was seriously sad because I wanted to find something to blame this diagnosis on.
Sure.
I felt like I was a healthy, young human, and I didn't have any reason to have it. You know, we did genetic testing, and it hadn't run in my family at all. I lived a healthy lifestyle. I checked all the boxes for healthy, yet I still got this. And because I couldn't find anything to blame it on, I realized, I guess this is just some hardship I have to experience. It's just something I get to have. I get to put it on my letter jacket of life. I get to put this on my life's resume. And I had to really shift my perspective. And I had to shift from being a victim into and I don't want to call it a survivor, but I had to live life fully because so many women don't get to live life fully after they get a diagnosis. And I did. So No Knockouts was born from hardship. It was born from the depths of my own suffering, which was really created in my own mind because I was physically capable and physically fine. And I realized you can be knocked down in life, but you are not knocked out. And that is where the name No Knockouts has come from. But it's turned into more than that. It's really a commitment to rise no matter what. And that's the message I put forth is you must commit to rise. You have to be willing to climb, and you need to be hungry to thrive because you only get one life. And although that's a kind of a cliche phrase, even though you do get one life, I think you should reinvent yourself over and over and live many lives within that one life. And so, although I had this hardship, it has grown me and expanded me into something I didn't even know I was capable of. And I intend to live life fully and want to help other women do the same thing. Not just commit to rise, not just commit to come back from rock bottom. It's about going as high and loud and strong as you want to go. So that's where No Knockouts came from.
I I just need a minute, Pam. Like you, I wasn't ready for that. So for those of you listening, I know Pam, and we've had several beautiful conversations. And I was recently on your podcast, and I don't know I don't know. I just did not see that one coming. I thought that you were going to share a story similar to what we hear so much on the show, that I was in a place in my life where I didn't like it. I didn't that kind of thing. I don't know why. You are so vibrant, so full of life. I did not see that coming, but so I just had to take that in, and I just want to love on you for a second, because I was just on a call earlier today where someone mentioned that they were going through something like this similar, and there's a whole another level of strength that comes with this kind of battle. And I completely can identify with what you're saying, that I can only imagine that you would sit back and think, why me? And start to go backwards. And, I lived a healthy life. It's not in my family. Like, we're always searching for that reason, and pity party, of course. But for you to get to a point where it didn't knock you down, because that would be so understandable for something like this, that kind of diagnosis, to do that. But for you to kind of brush yourself off and say, no, this is not the end of my story. And to come on the other side and have this appreciation for life that I'm sure you probably didn't actually have before. It's that gratitude thing we talked about when I was on your podcast. I'm curious though, can you tell us a little bit about where did that strength come from? Where did that shift in perspective come from? Was it kind of an overnight thing? Did something, you woke up one day, or was it like time? Was it hard work to do, or?
Yeah, there's a lot there. You said you didn't see this coming. Neither did I, Tracy. I didn't see this coming. I was a fit, healthy person with no reason to get it, no reason on paper, right? And then you said something along the lines of, I'm more grateful now. It changed me. The day I was diagnosed, within an hour of my diagnosis, I was on my knees on the floor in front of my husband saying, I don't want my life to change. I'm already grateful for what I have. I love my life. And this is changing me. I know it right now. I'm already changed. Just hearing those words throws you into a surreal state. It did for me. I'm not going to speak for everyone else, but it threw me into a surreal state. I could no longer feel my body, even though I was fully functional. And I lived that way for a while.
Wait, Pam, I don't want to cut you off, but when you were saying that you did not want to change,
I didn't.
what do you mean? And you said you could feel that you were changing.
Mhm.
So you didn't want to change in a bad way, or a good, like what do you mean? What did you mean by that?
I already loved my life. I
Yeah.
had two young children. I was a stay-at-home mom. We had a beautiful home. We lived a stable life that I loved. there's there was nothing, I'm going to use air quotes here, there was nothing wrong with life. It was normal, right? That we had normal problems, but no big deals. And I loved the life that we had grown, we meaning my husband and our family, we had grown this beautiful life. And I was very appreciative for the space we were in. And so a lot of times you hear, oh, you have to have something bad happen to you to teach you how to appreciate. That wasn't true for me. I already lived with gratitude. And so I didn't know what I was supposed to be getting from this. It was like a massive punch in the face. Like, I didn't understand. I'm already full of gratitude. I already love my life. I go to church. I praise the Lord. I have wonderful people around me by choice. We lived a life of intention. I wasn't taking life for granted at that point in any way. But I knew in those moments I wasn't going to ever be the same again. It's this immediate shift because you're going to have to make hard decisions. And now you have a diagnosis. You have this label on you. You have your identity is going to be forced to change. And I didn't know what that looked like because I had lived my life from intention for so long. And I was happy with it. And so I didn't know what I was supposed to learn from this. And I immediately was trying to find those answers. Why is this happening? Why did I get this lesson? What am I supposed to get from this? So I struggled from the very beginning because I don't want to say refused. I fought with reality. I didn't want to go in the direction cancer was going to take me in. And so I was trying to find meaning. I was trying to find a reason why I had it. And I could not find that. And that's also a big lesson in this. We don't always know the reason why crap happens to us. And I'm sorry to put that bluntly, but we don't always know why this stuff happens to us. We don't have all the whys. We don't have all the answers. So to take it back to your question of how did I get out of this? It was not immediate. It was months and years of me mentally battling with it, trying to justify, figuring out how I should live life differently going forward. I had this wonderful team of people around me. I kept this very quiet for years. My little tiny circle knew this was not something that was public. Even in my close family and friends, there was only a select few people that knew this for many years. And I battled with it, with having that identity change. And there was a point where I had to draw a line in the sand. I remember standing in the mirror one morning. I had taken my kids to school. Came back home, and I was standing in the mirror, realizing I was living this Groundhog Day sadness. I was living in this funk.
Yes.
Still progressing through life from the outside, looking completely normal, but my insides weren't whole. And I just remember thinking, I don't have to feel like this anymore. I'm physically fine. I am not going to live my life upset. And I truly made a commitment to not live my life upset. And it was a decision. It was a conscious choice. It wasn't something that I fell into. I didn't read it. It was like, this is it. I'm done with this BS. And I'm going to move forward, and I am going to live the absolute best life I can, what is in my control for the rest of my life, not only to the life that I have, but for the people who don't get to do that.
Yes.
To honor the people who didn't get it as good as I got it. Because there's plenty of people out there who have worst case scenarios, and I want to honor that.
I love that you said it was a conscious choice, because we all have choice in everything that we do. And I don't think we always choose consciously. We just sometimes get into situations and we let the situation take over and lead us, or the sadness that you were feeling. But for you to say that I made a conscious choice to just decide this is it. I was wondering, though, you mentioned how private you were with this diagnosis and what you were battling, even with close friends and some family. Why? Why were you keeping it so kind of close to your vest and secretive? And now you have a podcast that was born from it where you're talking about it. What changed?
At the time, I'm a silent fighter. I'm pretty quiet. I keep the hard stuff right at my core, because I feel like the outside noise is distracting to me. And so in the very beginning, I told my mom and my dad and my sisters, and it stayed that way for a really long time. And my husband, of course. But it stayed that way for a really long time because I knew I was going to, after the first doctor visits, I knew I was going to have choice in my treatment, or I thought I was going to. It looked like I was going to have choice in what I did with my body, what type of surgery I was going to have. There was probably going to be choices in the treatment, and those were going to be some really hard decisions. And I needed to not have external influence. I needed clarity. And that needed to be my decision and not anybody else's. I really didn't want outside influence because I needed to own this. This was my body. And outside of my husband and my doctors, my caretakers, I needed to fully own it because no one else was going to be affected the way I was.
Yes.
And so I needed to block out any potential noise. And the only way for me to do that was not share it. That's part one. Part two, and I'm not sure this is fully the best way to do it, but it's how I did it. I did it to protect everybody else, not just my kids. They were 9 and 10 years old. I didn't want their friends finding out and their friends asking them about their mom. Is your mom okay? They were too young to understand fully. I didn't want them fearful because we had just had a very close friend a couple years prior who had gone through breast cancer, and they got to witness that for a long time. And it was a hard struggle for this friend of ours. And I didn't know if I was going to be traveling that same path or a different one. So I didn't want to induce fear when it may not be necessary. Okay. So I was protecting my kids, but I also needed, this was selfish, but I needed my husband and my mom and dad for me. I'm a cry. I needed them there for me, not to answer everybody else's questions. I needed them to not be distracted because I needed them. And that was selfish. And so I didn't want other friends and family coming to them with phone calls, text messages, emails that they felt like they had to answer that they may not even know the answer to. And I didn't want them having to lie or to lead on a story that wasn't truthful or even to answer any unknowns. And I selfishly just needed them for me because I knew I couldn't do this by myself. So even though I had previously defined myself as a really strong person, I was knocked to my knees and I was weak and I couldn't function without assistance for a little while. And so it was selfish. It was a selfish decision. My cancer wasn't for anybody else. I didn't want to be a source of gossip. Yeah. I didn't want to be a source of entertainment because I don't feel like that's healthy. So I protected myself and my small circle of people around me. I don't regret it. If I had to do it all over again, knowing what I'd know, the way I did it, I would do it again the same way. Because that's how I rooted in power. I rooted in power in my small, firm circle as opposed to spreading it all out.
Pam, I love it. I don't see it as selfish at all. I'm listening to an incredibly strong woman who is aware of her needs and put herself first at a time where you needed that. It's a whole nother level of strength because I feel like I'm the opposite. If I was going through something like that, I think I would want to just, part of the pity party that I would have is just, woe is me. And I don't know. I think I would have needed as many people to, I don't know, who, you can't say, but the fact that you chose to do it exactly how you needed it to be done, I think is wonderful. I just think it's wonderful. But then I'm just curious, not to go down this too much, but when you did decide, did it come with healing, or when was the moment where you let people in and you told people what you went through?
After I finished my last surgery, which was a few months down the road, I told my close friends. I needed to do most of it after the fact because I knew they were so genuine and would care so deeply. I needed to let them know I was okay and gonna be fine. I didn't want them to go through the hurt with me because I knew they would. I knew they genuinely cared about me. And them hurting wasn't going to do them or me any favors.
Yes.
So I needed my outside world to be normal. I needed to know I would be able to go back to them and life would continue on as usual, even though I had been changed. And I had that. I had the response of, why didn't you tell me? What do
Sure.
you mean?
Yes.
What in the hell? How did I not know?
Yes.
What the heck? I had all of that. But I also had the respect of course you did it this way. We dove into, of course this is how you're going to do it, because my closest people know me.
Yes.
So I lived like that for years. I didn't come out publicly with no knockouts until 2025.
Mm,
I had there was some trickling of things before then, but my podcast didn't start until 2025. And so it took some warming up for me to do. It's hard to have something so close to you and then put it out there, but it's not going out there for me. I actually don't have a need to put that out there. It's more to help someone else who might need to hear it. Because I don't know. What if someone is similar to this? What if someone is knocked down and all they have to hear is, I'm committed to rise? And that helps them take one step up the rung of the ladder that they have to climb. So it's out there as a service to someone who just maybe needs to hear it. That's what
sure.
convinced me to really move forward with no knockouts. Because at the end of the day, let's say I'm on my deathbed and I'm looking back, I don't want to die with that secret. What if it could have held somebody? I mean, not held. What if it could have helped someone be held?
Mm-hmm.
What if it could help them find strength? If they don't have the strength, I'm going to let them borrow some of mine. Because I know when I didn't have it, I had to borrow it from my close friend, from my mom and dad and my husband and my sisters. And so if they're not getting it from the sources they need it from, please borrow my strength. Please borrow my brave, because you can have it for a little while.
Mm.
So that's where this comes from my depths.
I love it. And it also makes me think of, I was on a podcast recently where we talked about shame. And not to say there's any shame associated with this, but there's something about secrets and holding things in. I feel like it festers and it grows, and I'm hoping that you being able to just openly talk about this, especially from the place of my story can heal someone else, that it just releases anything versus if you were walking around feeling like you still, couldn't or didn't want to share it. I have to believe that you being able to talk about it not only is going to help others, but also will continue to help you heal from all of this.
Yeah, I think that I had a lot of shame for years before I drew the line in the sand and said, I'm not going to suffer any longer about this emotionally. I carried a lot of shame and embarrassment around it because I felt like I was going to be judged. People were going to wonder, what did she do to get this? I didn't want the judgment that came associated with it. But I really released that shame through the process, and I don't feel like I've carried it for quite some time. But I will say that each time I do get to talk about it, it is slightly freeing, but not to the magnitude that you would expect. It feels like I've already released the grip on it. It was kind of like a tug of war for so long. I was pulling one way and I was just going back and forth, just tugging. And as soon as I let that grip go, the shame was gone, the embarrassment was gone. I feel like I've embraced a new identity. I got to be someone who lived for 37 years without cancer. And now I get to be the rest of my life someone who has had cancer. It was about an identity shift for me. I could release the shame, but I had to accept the person who everybody kind of doesn't want to be. No one says I want to get cancer, but I did. So I had to embrace the person that most people try to avoid being. I had to look at it as a badge of survival or a badge of honor, not just bad luck.
And so now that you're on the other side and you think about that moment when you were kneeling in front of your husband saying, I don't want to change. What are your thoughts on it now that you see Pam, the survivor, Pam, the woman who has gone on to create this podcast? What do you think about the change now?
feel so expanded. I don't know if another experience would have happened to me if I didn't have that. There's no way to know those things. But I know this somehow forced me through years of shame, through years of embarrassment, through years of mental struggle. I somehow overcame that. And that overcoming pushed me into growth and expansion that I don't know if was possible if I didn't have this diagnosis. So I am incredibly grateful for being forced into something. And no one forced me there. It's just how I learned to overcome. And so I am grateful for having had it because I got to live something that hopefully most people don't. My experience comes with gratitude and respect. I get to honor what happened to me. I don't want to look at it as this horrible thing. That's in the past. Why do I need to relive that? My choice is to look forward. My choice is to live right now in this moment because this is the only moment I have.
Yes.
And my gaze is forward, not backwards.
So I want to bring up a word that you use, resilience.
Mm-hmm.
What does resilience look like to you now compared to your earlier life?
So I look at this different. I can answer this in many ways. I used to think you can always come back. You can always come back. You're going to bounce back, right? You hear that? You're going to bounce back. But I disagree with that. And here's why. I just alter it in my mind. You can't always go back to the person you were. Sometimes you have to bounce in a different direction. And in my case, that was true. I could never go back to the person who didn't have cancer. I can't go back to that person. I had to change. So I had to bounce forward. So you're not always going to bounce back. Sometimes you have to bounce forward. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. You can make it a good thing. So resilience isn't always bouncing back. Sometimes it's bouncing forward. So there's that. But to me, I always associated resilience with strength. And I still do. You have to have an inner strength to get through life. We just have to. We're all resilient. We all struggle with something from time to time. But that doesn't mean you're also not weak. There are times where you are down and out. You are laying in bed crying or in the shower crying or just exhausted. And that doesn't mean you're not resilient and you're not strong. That means you need to recover. That means you need to rest. That means you need to reset. That may mean you need to get in alignment with your heart and soul. Your heart, your mind, and your soul may not be in balance. And you know what I'm talking about, Tracy, here, because I know you were on my podcast. When you're not in alignment, when you're not who you're meant to be, you're exhausted, you're tired. Life doesn't feel right. And you have to get in alignment to be in your most powerful state. And when you're in your most powerful state, you are resilient. So alignment and resilience go together for me. So when I say yes to something, and this is what I encourage anybody to do, say yes to what's right for you and say no to what's not right for you. Because that's how you're going to be most powerful and most resilient.
Yes. And your body is always trying to get your attention, is always trying to talk to you. We have to just honor that more. And it's interesting because I'm just thinking about your human design, just being a 3-5. You know, the 3 is all about experimentation. It's all about trial and errors. It's about living life and not getting it wrong, getting messy. You're either winning or you're learning, and is what I always like to say. I just think about how you've lived your life. From your lived experiences, that is how you're able to impact others. And you certainly are doing that.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think I can see life through another lens at this point. I think it's hard for me to see life without having had cancer. I can remember what that looked like, but my viewpoint is so different. For example, I think a lot of people don't want to age. Women especially, they fight with the wrinkles and the gray hair and the sagging, whatever, right? Yeah. My goals are different. I want to grow old. I want to grow gray. I want to grow wrinkly. I want to grow whatever comes with that. Because if I grow to be old, that's a true win. That means I've lived a long life. Now, I don't want to advance into that in any way, but my goals are to live what I say. I want to live long and strong. And so I think because I don't see women run around saying, I can't wait to grow old. I can't wait to get gray. I can't wait for that either. But that's what I hope and strive for, because that means I've lived a long time, even with having had a cancer threat in my 30s. So I want to grow old. I want to grow gray, and I want to grow wrinkly and wise, because the other option of not doing that, I'm not interested in. I want the longevity and whatever comes with that, because that's the gift. I'll take it. I'll take it. I embrace the age. I am currently 48 years old, and people approach 50, or they approach 60 or 40 or whatever the big milestone birthdays are. A lot of people go at that with fear, or it's a time to reset. Bring it on. Let me have it. Let me have the 50. Let me have the 55. Let me have the 60, the 70, the 80, the 90, and whatever it comes with. And it's going to come with a ton of hardship in between, because that's what life is. It's going to come with a lot of good and a lot of hard. But if I get to experience that, that means I win. That means, to me, living is winning. So back to no knockouts a little bit. I feel as if a lot of times people want to avoid hardship and struggle. That's natural. Nobody likes it. I can't stand it. I'm a weenie. I mean, I don't like it either. But we all have it. And the more you fight with it, the harder it is. If you can just accept it as, hey, it's my turn. I guess it's my turn to have this problem or this hardship right now. You're going to get through it much faster. If you can accept reality, and that's what I struggled with for so long. I had to accept a cancer diagnosis and what I chose to do with my body. If you can accept it, life just gets better. You can at least take steps forward if you've accepted what's true. And that's true for, Tracy, that's true for our own alignment. If we can accept what's true for ourselves and then act upon that, we are more resilient that way. When we're living our truth, we're going to get knocked out and knocked down a lot less easier. We're tougher that way.
You've learned so many amazing lessons, because yes, everything you just said was beautiful. The whole concept behind aging, if you go on social media for more than 2 seconds, at least in my feed, there's a cream for this, there's people fighting it constantly. But what a beautiful reframe to see that. No, I tend to think of aging in that way as well, because often I will think of the friends that I had that, died at 18, some kind of horrible, horrific accident. And every once in a while I will stop and think about them and think about all of the things that they didn't get a chance to experience or enjoy. So when I see the gray hairs, or, when I see another birthday on the calendar, I realize it truly is. It's a gift. It really is. Wow. I'm just still kind of taken back. So what are your thoughts on shifting just a little bit on this idea of, you mentioned, it felt selfish. Is there something that you've had to kind of unlearn to become the woman that you are right now?
The first thing that comes to mind is yeses and nos. I can now feel what I want to do or don't want to do pretty quick and pretty strong. A lot of times people get stuck in their maybes. Do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? I feel like my discernment muscle has really strengthened after the fact. I didn't feel so obligated. I didn't erase the word should. I still say it all the time. But when I hear the word should, it's a trigger word for me. That immediately says, wait a second, who said you should? And is there a want in there? So I kind of release a lot of obligation and shoulds and live more in the I want to or I don't want to. Because why not? We still have plenty of obligations in our life, but I think if you look at life as I get to do many of the things that we have to do, that shifts your perspective. Instead of saying, I have to list the things, I have to pay the bills, I have to put away the dishes, I have to go to work, I have to take so-and-so to the doctor, I have to take care of the aging parents. If you can shift that to, I get to do these things, your life automatically improves. you automatically feel less bad. I think I'm very conscious of my words, or I'm more conscious of my words after this. I am more intentional and I shape my actions and my words to match what's really going on in my soul. And I'm human. I still make plenty of mistakes and get off kilter, but I wouldn't say that's a drastic improvement for me. Is I am able to discern between what I want and what I don't want a lot faster than I used to could.
Hopefully you do it unapologetically, no guilt. It's like, nope, I know what I want. I know what I don't want.
Yeah, I think that the guilt, and I think that's normal. I think we all get guilt, but if I assess it and I realize I'm staying true to myself and I'm honoring myself and I'm not sacrificing myself, then I can let that guilt go. My intentions are good behind whatever I'm deciding. It's not out of deception or hurt or pain for someone else. My intent is good, including to keep myself elevated, including to keep myself in a good place. And so it's just honoring life. It's honoring the life that I get to have or anybody else's. It's, if I say no to something, it's not necessarily against what I'm turning down. It might be in favor of me,
Yes.
not out of selfishness, but so I can serve others in a way that I'm aligned with.
What would you say to someone who's listening to this right now who might be going through a similar hardship or something different, but maybe she feels kind of knocked out at this moment? Would you have any advice for her?
I know everybody goes through different things in different situations, but if you can embrace the I'm knocked down, but I'm not knocked out verbiage, when you're at your depths, when you're laying in your closet crying or in your car crying and you realize how crappy your situation is right now, if you can come back to the present and just realize you are just fine. You might be living a living hell, but you are going to come back. Commit to rise. Live whatever you're going through, but there is something on the other side. There is something on the other side. And just because you're taking this breath and having these thoughts, you are not knocked out. You're just down and out right now. So you're going to come back. When every door, what is the phrase? When one door closes, another opens. You might have a door closing for you. You maybe didn't choose that this door is closing for you. You maybe don't want this door to close for you. Maybe you do. That doesn't matter. If a door is closing, you're going to walk through another open door, and there is something in that new room. There is something on the other side of that new door jamb. That threshold, as soon as you cross, you're in a new ball game. The one that you left isn't the end game. Something that just came to mind. Remember when we were back in school and you'd get out of school in May and you'd have June, July, part of August, and then you go back to school. I remember, I don't know what grade it was, 6th or 7th grade. I remember thinking, this was the best year ever. I'm never going to have another year as good as this one. And I didn't want the school year to end, right? Because I was having fun with my friends and then we were all going to like part ways for the summer. You don't see each other as much.
Yes.
And I was sad for those first few weeks with, that was the best. Nothing's ever going to live up to that year. And how old are you at that time? Like 12 or 13 or something.
Right.
You think that's the end game. That was your best year of your life. Then you start school in August, or you're fixing to start school and you don't even want school to start because you don't want summer to end. And then you start school and you realize, oh my gosh, it's even better.
Yes.
It's even better. And so we don't, as adults, we don't have the cycles of school anymore. Our school doesn't end. We get a little break from life and start all over again. But it's the same concept.
Yes.
You might be ending your school year and you're going to start a new one. And it's going to be just as good, if not better. It's going to be what you make it to be.
Yes.
We're not all subject to the circumstances. You have plenty of choice in your life. Take it. It's not all happenstance. It's not all just what happens to you. It's what you make of it. So you may be down and out. Take that time. Take those moments. Take those hours, days, weeks, years, whatever you need. But come out of that and walk through that threshold and make whatever room you're in the biggest, funnest, baddest, coolest room that you want to make it in. And so take your power back. Take your power. Don't let it all go away from you. You may be powerless or you may feel powerless right now, but there's better days ahead.
Yes.
There's more life to be had.
Pam, I love it. I love the school analogy and the idea of when people are going through something, to, if you can, maybe you can't do it right away, but at some point to try to think of what might be on the other side. What lesson am I supposed to learn or get from this? Or how might my life look differently on the other end? Because yes, when you're in school, you can't possibly imagine that seventh grade is going to be better than sixth grade. You haven't lived it. You have no perspective. Then you get into seventh grade and you're like, oh my gosh. So it's very similar. It can be so scary during these times. But the idea of, I was going to say with schools, I think that was one of the things that got me a little sad when I was in corporate America was I kind of missed that I'm in second grade, next year's third grade. I'm in sixth grade, next year I'm going to go to middle school. I'm in middle school, next year I'm going to go to high school, and then I'm going to go to college. Like I liked kind of seeing that thing that I was reaching for. And then as you get older, it's like, well, next year I'm going to be sitting at this desk doing the same thing. So I think if you can try to just get excited about that, if there might be something around the corner that I can't see, this might be pushing me towards something that, like you said, on my own, I probably wouldn't have done it. I was just reading a book earlier today, and it was saying how sometimes our children are here to really push us, that we are able to do things that we would have never on our own done without having the love of our children. Like you see that they need certain things. They need a home and shelter and food. And so there are these things that you kind of do just from that place of love that you might have not done if life was just about you. And it feels kind of similar that sometimes these big things push us into something even bigger.
Yeah, I think that's why I am so ingrained with no knockouts. I don't think I would have come up with that. I
Yeah.
don't think I would have had it unless I went through cancer. Something else, when I was in my depths in those first few weeks, I couldn't even sometimes form sentences or words. I just had feelings and I would jot them down in a journal. And I didn't sit and do journal prompts. I would just write down words or phrases that came to mind. They were meaningful to me, but I didn't know why. I knew there was something to them, and a lot of them would come back over and over again. And I would just write down words and phrases. And I turned back to that journal when I came up with this No Knockouts coaching and podcast brand. And I think that's why I was jotting them down. They were seeds. They were seeds that have or will be developed into something for me. And I mean, I've developed podcast topics off of some of them and have plans for others. But I think when you're when you're at rock bottom, write down things that come to mind.
Mm.
Not because it's going to be something like it was for me, but it does help just to let it out. I think we keep so much inside of us and it festers and we feel trapped and stuck and it just sits in our hearts and in our souls and our gut. And if you can write that out, put pen to paper and just release some of it, you lighten your load. And so just journaling is healthy. We all know that, but do it.
Yes.
Don't just know it, actually do it.
Do it.
And that was one of the things for me. You never know what's going to come out that may serve you going forward. It could be a seed for something.
Pam, before we move into the speed round, is there anything else that you would like to share about your story that you haven't shared with us today?
Gosh, no, I can't, not, it's so big. I can't just do one thing, right? There's so much that goes into it. But I think I remember laying on the couch after one of my surgeries and just crying a few days afterwards. And I remember telling my sister, I'm so weak. I thought I was a strong person. And she was like, you are strong. You've just gone through this hellacious surgery and you're in pain. And that doesn't make you not strong. And I'm like, I know, but I was so emotionally sad. I was so devastated in my mind that I was having to do this. And I think me just verbalizing that as I thought I was strong, but I'm really weak. That was such a defining moment for me because I can look back on it and realize we're not just one thing. I had always labeled myself as strong, but we're not always strong. We're not always funny. We're not always kind. We're not always a great mom. Sometimes we're not those things as well. And I think if we allow ourselves to be ands instead of either or, we open up our life. Sometimes we're a good mom, and some days we're just not the best mom. We could have done better. But that doesn't mean we're not a good mom. And that's true with all things in life. We may be a great spouse, but we have our moments where we're not. And so I think if we embrace the and, we're this and we're this. And in this situation, I was strong and weak. And I allowed for both of those in my life. And so going forward, when I have moments of weakness or periods of time where I'm something where I don't think I am, I just let it be there and realize that will pass and I will come back to solid ground another time. And so I think it's important to embrace the and not just live or think that we're just one way. We're multifaceted, not just one thing. And embrace the dynamics of life. Whether you choose it or it's thrown at you, let it be dynamic, because that's where we grow. We may be forced into it, it might hurt, but that puts you into the next evolution of yourself. So embrace it.
Thank you. I love that. Thank you. Embrace the and always.
Mm-hmm.
So, Pam, what makes you come alive?
Nature. I like to be outside. I don't like concrete buildings. I don't like cars all around me. I don't like noise. I like silence and stillness and green trees, water flowing. I feel most at peace. I always say when I'm in nature, I say, I can hear God better now.
Sure, absolutely.
So nature is what makes, I say come alive. I kind of associated come alive with peace there. That's where I feel most true. I'll say that is when I'm in nature.
What's a song that instantly shifts your energy or makes you feel something?
Footloose.
Yep.
Do you remember the movie Footloose? Like back,
Absolutely.
I guess it was probably like the 80s or early 90s,
Yes.
the original. I
Yes.
love that song. I love that movie. I can't help but shimmy and shake as soon as I hear that song.
You have to. You cannot not.
Yeah. It dates me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it dates me and I don't care. Give me a dance floor or not. I'm going to dance.
Is that Kenny Loggins? Or
It is.
Kenny Loggins, yes.
Kenny Loggins.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, I love that song.
What's a book that cracked you open or stayed with you long after the last page?
The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Yes.
I would have never thought of myself as a spiritual person. I would have, because I am faithful. I do practice my religion. But in that sense, I would have never thought about that until I read The Power of Now. And it's been a few years since I read it. But that really changed my life. Being in the present moment is the only place we can live. We can think about the past, but you have no control of it. You can think about the future. You think you have control of it. You can plan for the future, but it's really out there. It's non-existent. The only moment you have is the present. And that totally changed how I live life. And so it diminishes my worry, because when you're in worry, you're only thinking about the future. You're anxious or worried. That is time spent in the moment you can't control in the future. If you're ruminating about the past, you can't do anything about it. It's wasted energy. Just live in the present moment. Do what you can do right now.
Once I heard that when you think about the past, when you're depressed, you're thinking about the past. And when you're anxious, you're thinking about the future. It's like, why do either one of those? But when you're in the present moment, you're not either one of those things. You can't be. You're present.
Yeah, that's where your joy lives.
Yes.
That's where your joy lives, right here, right now. And it's the only moment you have control over.
Yes.
It's a beautiful book.
I love it. It's been years since I've read it. I'm looking at it right now. I need to dust it off. But
do you have books? What are some books that you like to read?
Pam, don't even start with me.
Same with me.
I have books. I probably read 3 books at a time, and I have a bad habit with doing that, but I'm constantly ordering, and I keep saying, Tracy, you need to go to the library and just check books out, but I like to have them and highlight them, and I have them all. There's only been a couple of books that people have mentioned on this podcast, and I'm like, I've never heard that, or I haven't read it, so I just guess.
Yeah, I'm a reader too. Same for me. I'm
It's just
anytime there's a book sale on Amazon, I'm scouring it. I'm like, oh,
yes,
that's on my list. That's on my list.
totally. What's your favorite little indulgence or guilty pleasure?
Oh, okay. So Bluebell homemade vanilla ice cream. Bluebell is a brand of ice cream. I'm in Texas, and it's a brand that resides here. It's created here. The company is in Brenham, Texas, and it's in some of the other states now. But I love ice cream, and their homemade vanilla is just the softest, simplest, most comforting food. And don't get me wrong, I like all of
Yeah.
them. But I just want the simple vanilla. It soothes my soul.
I think homemade vanilla ice cream is highly underrated. There is
Oh my
something
gosh.
about it that is just, especially homemade. It is just, you don't need all the, as much as I love Ben and Jerry's, I love having all the stuff in there, my cherries and bits of chocolate, but there's something about just homemade vanilla ice cream that is just,
It's because it's simple, Tracy.
it's simple.
It's because, I love the chewy chunks of all the other ice cream
Yeah,
too. That's fun. But
right.
the simplicity of the vanilla takes me back to base. It
Mm.
centers me. I can hug a tree or eat ice cream and I go into the same place.
And why is it that you crave, at least me, I crave ice cream the later it gets at night? What is that? Is that a thing? Is that, am I alone in this?
No, you're not alone.
What?
Will say though, I could eat it any time of day, but I do like it mostly at night. Is it calming our nerves? Is it our nervous system? I don't know.
I
What's the
don't know.
science behind it? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know, but it's evil. I have to just stop.
Yeah, so Bluebell homemade vanilla is probably my favorite indulgence. I do love a good latte though. I
Mm,
hot a hot latte. I'm not into the cold coffee drinks.
no.
I like the hot lattes, and I like a mocha too, but they're a little heavier. They're a little creamier, and because I'm getting a latte, I feel like I'm getting fewer calories and it's healthier.
Sure. Right.
I would say those are my indulgences.
Those are good indulgences. What's one thing that always reminds you how beautiful life really is?
That's a good question. Ooh, you know what? This isn't profound. Nothingness. I like nothingness when I can release the noise, escape the noise, and sit in silence, whether that be in my home or in nature. To me, that's where I realize how beautiful everything is. When I can slow down and look at all the things that are in existence in quiet and stillness, that's where I really feel most solid. And so I know that's not profound, but I really like the state of nothingness.
See, Pam, I'm gonna argue that I think that's incredibly profound because I think that stillness is where everything truly lives. And I know that sounds just odd, but I really do believe that when you can get still, which is not easy for someone like me, I have a defined head and ajna in human design. It's constant thinking, constant noise. But when you can get still, that is where you hear the answers. That is where I think you feel. I think that's where gratitude comes from. I think that's where love. I think that's where just realness comes from. The noise, it's just a distraction.
Oh, yeah. The noise is a distraction. And
Yeah.
secondly, this just came to me, and I don't know if it's because it's December right now, but a children's choir. A
Mm.
children's choir brings a sense of peace to me. And I guess maybe that's in the back of my mind because I'm thinking Christmas mass, Christmas church,
Mhm.
maybe that's why it's coming to me. But a good solid children's choir with those angelic voices
Yeah.
sitting in a very quiet church and that's all you hear, man, that is heavenly.
Mm.
I just find that just incredibly peaceful. I find that beautiful. But again, that is um that is stillness. That's its own version of stillness. So
Yeah.
you're right.
Well, and normally I end my speed round there, but I have a new question.
Okay.
You'll be the first person I test this on. So I've been thinking a lot about how midlife, it isn't a crisis. It's actually a turning point. It's a chance to get curious. I like to coin it midlife curiosity. So tell me, what's something you're genuinely curious about these days? Maybe something you're rethinking, exploring, or waking up to in this season of your life. What are you curious
Wow.
about, Pam?
Okay. That's an excellent question. And I don't want to say I know a lot about midlife. I study midlife. I have a book club that is called Do Midlife Well. So we read books about midlife. So I have some background to this. However, I'm not going to answer that based on anything I've ever read. This is just something that keeps coming back to me lately. When I was growing up, I grew up around a large family. My mom, my grandfather, my mom's dad, he was one of 9 siblings. Okay. And they all had kids. So my mom had a lot of cousins, and then they all had kids. And I had a lot of those families around me. We grew up together. And my aunts, it's actually my mom's aunts, my great aunts, and my grandmother, that generation, they would get together all the time and sit and talk. And they called it coffee klatsch. They were a German family. I think it's spelled Klatsch. I don't even really know what that means, but they would coffee klatsch. They would sit around and drink coffee and talk. And sometimes we'd stop by my aunt's house or one of them and visit while they were there. And that was exciting because we got to go see our aunts or our granny or whoever it was. And I'm realizing they're all gone. My granny is still alive. She's not living her best life, but she is still alive. But most of that generation has passed. And now I'm in midlife. And it makes me wonder, what were they doing? What were they talking about? At the time, I thought they were just gossiping about all of us. But I don't know. Were they actually supporting each other through their life the way me and my girlfriends and my sisters do when we get together? Because it didn't look like that from the outside. Did that sisterhood exist between them decades ago, the way I feel like I have that relationship with my sisters and my best friends now? Was that their sisterhood? And did they realize how much they were giving back to me and all of the cousins in my generation who would show up and sit there and talk with them, and they'd invite us to the table to have a piece of cake with them? And we felt special being involved in this big adult discussion. That will always sit with me. I don't think I ever heard anything profound. Nothing moved me. If so, I don't remember it. But those were special moments to me. And now I have young nieces. And so it has me sort of turning my mind going, maybe I'm going to be one of those people one day. Maybe I already am. Maybe when I invite my nieces and the younger cousins and whoever is younger to the table, I'll just say in quotes, to the table. Maybe I'm having the same inclusion effect on the young people in my life that my elders had on me. And so let me equate this to something. Am I becoming an elder? You know, not in an old way,
Right.
but in a way that gives back and that can provide wisdom and give comfort and inclusion to someone who might need it. Maybe it's not a youthful person who is in elementary school. Maybe it's to someone who's 20. You know, so is the tide turning? Am I in the middle of the tide? And I once looked up to a lot of ladies. Am I eventually going to be someone who people look up to me? I don't know if that was clear. Does that make sense though?
Yeah, I think you're already there. I think just from you sharing your story, you are already doing that for many. So,
But
were you going to say
I
something?
was just going to say that's what's been coming to me lately. I realize that I'm different, and I didn't even make that decision. You know, I don't go to coffee klatsch, but my girlfriends and I do go to coffee, you know?
Yeah.
And so is that the same thing? Are we all eventually going to become an elder full of wisdom that we help the younger generations, that we invite in and share to the younger women and the younger ladies in our life and have an impact on them? I think so.
Yeah.
I think we are.
If we're lucky, we will all
Yeah,
get that chance.
exactly. If we all grow old, gray, wrinkled, and wise.
That's right. Well, Pam, where's the best place for listeners to find you or follow along with your work and your podcast?
I'm most active on Instagram more than Facebook, but I'm at No Knockouts on Instagram and Facebook. My podcast is the No Knockouts podcast. I'm on Apple and Spotify and all the places. And I have a book club, Do Midlife Well, if you want to sign up for that. There's links for that in my Instagram bio or on my website, noknockouts.com. And then you know what? I don't know when this is going to come out, Tracy, but I created a meditation series for the holidays and I've called it Silence the Noise because I feel like the noise of the holidays gets to us. Society tells us that we have to do all the things. There's all the parties, there's all the events. And so I created a meditation series that's available on Instagram in my bio if anyone's interested in doing a Silence the Noise meditation.
I love that. Well, thank you. Thank you, Pam. Thank you so much for this conversation and showing what real strength looks like. And to those of you listening in, if life's knocked you out, down, around, I hope that Pam's story reminded you that it's never too late to rise, reinvent, and reclaim your strength. And until next time, keep getting high on life, one beautiful fix at a time. Thanks for listening to A Beautiful Fix. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a quick review to help others find us. And if you'd like to share your own beautiful fix or join me as a guest, reach out anytime at tracy@abeautifulfix.com. Looking forward to next time.